Namaste, good evening. Uh, we are from ADI, uh, uh, Association of Designers of India, and follow me, Jaimin. There are 6 people in a core committee, so currently we are 3 here. So we inviting you all for this design talk, and basically ADI के बारे में मैनी पीपल माइट नो, बट फिर से रिपीट करना ज़रूरी है क्योंकि वी नीड स्ट्रेंथ एंड लाइक माइंडेड माइंड्स जो कंट्रीब्यूट कर पाएँ अपने अपने पर्पस को, बिकॉज डिज़ाइन अवेयरनेस से ज़्यादा अभी एक्शंस की ज़रूरत है कि वी स्प्रेड आवर विंग्स एंड इफ़ेक्टिवनेस टुवर्ड सोसाइटी जो हर सेक्टर्स में यूज़फुल हो. एंड तो एडीआई इज़ इट्स लाइक एसोसिएशन, देसी में बोले तो मंडल और महाजन. तो उस हिसाब से, और वी आर करेंटली एज ए कमिटी अहमदाबाद चैप्टर लुकिंग आफ्टर अक्रॉस गुजरात. जब तक कोई सिटी का अपना स्ट्रेंथ डेवलप नहीं होता लाइक सूरत एंड राजकोट एंड बड़ौदा, तो सिटी चैप्टर्स भी डेवलप होंगे. सो एज ए सिटी चैप्टर आई एम जॉइंट जनरल सेक्रेटरी, माई सेल्फ इज़ राणा स्वराज सिंह. तो we do lot many things like student interaction with industries, फिर डिज़ाइन टॉक जो ये सीरीज़ हैं, तो उसमें वी ट्राइड कि जितने भी अलग अलग सेक्टर्स में जिन्होंने अपनी अपनी फील्ड में कुछ अचीव किया है फॉर विद इन दैट फील्ड थ्रू डिज़ाइन, और उसके सर्कल के बाहर डिज़ाइन एप्लीकेशन को एक्सपांड किया है दूसरे सेक्टर्स में, उन लोगों को वी सेलिब्रेट, वी इनवाइट, वी ऑनर्ड. तो पर्पज़ यही है कि एक दूसरे से जाने, यंगर जनरेशन्स उनके एक्सपीरियंस को जाने, समझे, सीखें, एंड जो ऑलरेडी प्रोफेशनल्स हैं उनको भी एक अवेयर करें, उनको हैंड होल्डिंग करें, उनको गाइड करें, और कलेक्टिवली वी डू सम कंस्ट्रक्टिव वर्क फॉर आवर कंट्री, फॉर आवर रीजन, आवर सराउंडिंग्स, आवर spaces and sectors. So basically this for currently जो आज डिज़ाइन टॉक हैं वो हिमांशु घोष का है, और he doesn't need any introduction. ये मैं जिस तरह मैं जानता हूँ मैं उस तरह एक्सप्लेन करूँगा हिमांशु को कि जब 10-15 साल पहले जब ये शुरू हुआ था इमर्सिव टेक्नोलॉजी, तो ये काफ़ी नया फील्ड था, काफ़ी रिस्की फील्ड था, बिकॉज नो वन वांट टू गेट इनटू दैट बिकॉज नो बडी नोज़ कि इससे होगा क्या, व्हाट इज़ द आउटकम, व्हाट इज़ द इफ़ेक्टिवनेस, हाउ. तो बेसिकली कुछ ऐसे महानुभाव हैं, वन ऑफ देम इज़ हिमांशु, जो उन्होंने वो ट्राई किया, वो एफर्ट लिया ताकि बहुत सारी चीज़ में लाइक प्रोजेक्शन मैपिंग हो, 3D होलोकास्टिंग हो, या फिर इमर्सिव इंटरैक्टिव प्लेन्स हो इन म्यूज़ियम स्पेसिस, इन पब्लिक स्पेसिस, जहाँ मॉन्यूमेंट्स को कॉन्टेक्चुअली समझाना, थोड़ा एंटरटेनमेंट के साथ समझाना. इट्स लाइक एजुकेशन विथ एंटरटेनमेंट थ्रू इमर्सिव एक्सपीरियंस. तो वो फील्ड में काफ़ी आगे हैं. ही हैज़ डन ग्रेट प्रोजेक्ट्स लाइक तानारीरी, वडनगर, और बहुत सारे ऐसे प्रेस्टिजियस प्रोजेक्ट्स में ही हैज़ डन लॉट मैनी वर्क्स. तो थोड़ा इंट्रोडक्शन ये है, एंड ही इज़ वेरी हम्बल. आप कुछ भी पूछ सकते हो. सो दिस टॉक जैसे उनके व्हेन आई इनवाइट हिम, फिर वो प्रेजेंटेशन देंगे, एंड प्रेजेंट इन द सेंस कि ही विल शो कि व्हाट इज़ दिस प्रोजेक्शन मैपिंग एंड टुवर्ड्स एआई क्या फ्यूचर होगा, व्हाट इज़ द स्कोप ऑफ जो स्टूडेंट्स और नई जनरेशन्स जो इस फील्ड में who are interested, and then we can have a question answer session जो जिसको जो कुछ पूछना हो. ठीक है, तो हिमांशु प्लीज़ आइए. थैंक यू, आप आए. गिफ्ट इज़ फ्रॉम AMA, मतलब इट्स कर्टसियस, मतलब हमेशा रहता है कि AMA यहाँ जो गेस्ट आते हैं उनको उस तरह से AMA की तरफ से भी एक सम्मान देते हैं. सो प्लीज़ एक्सेप्ट.
Hi. Okay, it's too loud. Lights. Lights. So English is okay, right? Mix Hindi English is good. Okay, I didn't expect that many people. Shimul told me about 15, 20 people, but I'm not used to giving such talks. So I think my office, some people from my office are here only to check I actually give a talk or not, and I say the right things. There are some people who will take notes, and then tomorrow I will have to answer them again. But great. I'll try and keep it uh, more like a case study kind of a thing. In the initials, I'll just talk about what we did, and then I'll take across different projects, different typology of projects, slowly. So here we go. I hope the screen is visible. You can stop me at any time, especially during the case study, to ask any particular part. I should be able to help you there. So yeah, good evening. We are here today to talk about a shift in design, especially experiential design, where it's not confined to a page, a frame, or even a screen. We have entered a new world where designers paint with light, choreograph with data, and sculpt with interactivity. Where a temple wall, a simple temple wall, becomes a canvas, a museum becomes a living organism, an AI, a creative collaborator. This, what we will try and see today, is an attempt at a new toolkit for experiential design, as it's an ever-growing organism, but it's still experiential design as we know it today. But before we kind of dive in a little bit about me, some of you, I mean, thankfully, very, very thankfully, not many of you of that generation is here, but still, some of you know me as Himadri's son. Not the older one, I am the naughtier one, apparently. That's what I've been told. And I have actually grown up in the Chhatrachaya of a lot of designers, artists, and people on the similar lines. I am a Bengali, Prabhashi. If there is any true Bengali here, please don't talk to me in Bengali right now. But I've been born and raised primarily in the southern India, and later on adopted by Ahmedabad. So I presently call myself an Ahmedabadi, not a Gujarati, but an Ahmedabadi. I started my journey as a designer and an entrepreneur about 15 years ago, in a way to try and carry forward a legacy of design, which actually didn't start with my father, but by my grandparents, who were pupils of Sri Rabindranath Tagore. And eventually my uncle also followed a creative, this one in audio design. And I eventually joined and quit CEPT midway through to pursue experience design. Since then, lots and ups and downs, in the sense, a lot of experimentation, like Rana mentioned, that at a time when I was, not that I'm old today, but I was a little more younger, I did try experimenting in a lot of mediums, and that's when I came across all of this new exciting medium. I am still an unpaid labor at KnownSense Studios. Please take note, I will have to get myself paid now. Okay, so KnownSense Studios is a new media design studio. We've been around since 2011, and we've done 500 odd projects only in new media. So when I say new media, what's the difference? I'll try and explain. It's mostly to do with, since 2010, what came as new media. We're not talking about multimedia then, which was just purely animation, etc., etc., but projection mapping, interactive, augmented reality, holographic projections, virtual reality. We've been doing this since 2010 now, almost all of it. The first projection mapping that we did was in 2010. So, and we don't do advertisements, corporate films, etc., etc. While we dabbled in them in the initial years, we had to. We needed the funds, so we even did weddings at times. We had to, because one of the most experimental areas is weddings. You know, it's crazy. I think marriage in general is experimental, I guess. So it kind of it worked for us. And since then, we've been doing a lot of digital and phygital and otherwise work. I'll talk about some of our projects as well. But in the last 15 years, as we stand today, we are 3 departments or units. We all sit together. We're a team of 80 people. We call them 3 wings. One is KnownSense Productions. That's the primary wing, where we do all our projection mapping or museum projects. That's essentially KnownSense Studios. There is ProLearner, which was earlier KnownSense Interactives, which does everything to do with interactives. But we called it that because we also do we use the same mediums for training, for industrial training. So ProLearner is focusing only on blue collar workers, industrial training, using the same mediums. We had to change the name from KnownSense to ProLearner for obvious reasons. We can't, no corporate or government wants training to be done by somebody called KnownSense. So that we changed it. And the last wing, which is a fairly new one, is called KnownSense Experiences. I'll talk a little bit about it later. So we've actually seen experiential design evolve from just being a spectacle to becoming systems. And we'll try and explain a bit about this as well. This is a small showreel. The Statue of Unity, that's a show that we did 2017. Red Fort, we've done 2 shows. In fact, four shows, outside, inside. This is again Gujarat, the Modhera Sun Temple. Very difficult, one of the most difficult structures for us. This is an interesting project, immersive, interactive for students. Science center, it's in a science center. This is one of the new ones which is using AI and obviously other sensors, etc. Projection mapping, AI, sensor, everything. This is an old one, but Banaras. This one of the longest projections that we've done. This was in Kumbh, the Mahakumbh, the Waves Summit. This has been recently, last year, but this year, January. Here we've done quite a few projects, whether it's projection, 270, interactive, immersive. This was a simulator recreating the earthquake in Bhuj. So the whole floor shakes along with the film. This is the same spot that the Gita, the only living being that's heard the Gita alive, that's in Jyotisar. So this is a water fountain, laser, and this is science. In the Science City, Ahmedabad, there's a fountain show. So this is just some of the work that we've done in the past few years. But none of this obviously has happened alone, or I was not the only culprit. I have partners. I founded the studio with a Bal Kalakar named Mandeep, who does all the tech and essentially he also produces. He's an animator himself. There is our Malkin, Priyanka. She does the story scripting and obviously the finances. And we have a Sergeant Raj he does all the interactive. In fact, he takes care of ProLearner. And we do have a scientist in-house. He is an official scientist, PhD from Cornell. He takes care of the training, especially the content and the research. And we do a lot of work with science, so we use him as an expert there as well. So we've all kind of come together, each one of us from very different walks of life, each one of us with different education. We have a structural engineer, and we have a mechanical engineer, an MBA. We also have a scientist, we have animators, and then obviously there's me, who is, I don't know. I've learned along the way. But along with them, like I said, we're a team of 80. We actually have each one of these people mentioned here, each typology of people in the studio. Right from creative directors, who are basically designers who have grown into the creative direction role. There could be animators who have grown into that. We have artists, we have writers, some trained, some learned along the way. We actually have storytellers, illustrators, storyboard artists, etc. I'm not going through the whole list, but yes, we have space designers. Some people ask me why and how. We'll explain a little later. But we have even tech and execution teams. That makes us unique. But some people call it unique. For us, it was a need to have all of it in-house. We don't outsource work, other than maybe music and a few scripts here and there, because that's the need of the project. We don't outsource. But what does it basically mean? That we just have to try and think how experiential design has changed, what are the, and where all can they be used. So at present, we are using them in religious centers. We've done a lot of them. Tourist sites, you would have seen some. Museums, experience centers of corporates or retail experience centers, and large events. Along with that, like I said, weddings, parties, DJ parties or concerts, and etc. While we've done that in the past, but no more. But those are areas where something like experience design is now becoming an important factor. Earlier, it was just a part of it, light and sound. It was just light and sound. Light guy will come, he will do something, get away. Maybe the stage guy will come, he will do something, and he will go away. Now it has become an important part, even in the events scale. You may have seen a lot more televised events where this has happened, and I guess we've done television as well long ago. But it has become, experience has become very important across various sectors in the industry, and each one of them, mind you, the ones that I've listed down here, each of them are actually different business segments for us, as in terms of client, in terms of how we approach them, in terms of how we deal with the project. So it in itself, it has become a scope of work. There are people who are concentrating only on large events or small and large events, as companies similar to us. And there are some who are only doing corporate experience centers, some who are doing only museums, and some who are doing only religious functionaries. But yes, these are some, right from very small one projector setups, 2000 lumen projectors to 50,000 lumen projectors into my numbers. I'll come to the projector bit a little later. Now, the question was, is this a time we can call it as reframing new media design? Because new media design has changed. I believe this Bhargav, I saw Bhargav around somewhere. Yeah, he is from new media design. When he started studying new media, it was different. I remember the curriculum then, and now there's a little confusion as to what do we really call new media design. So today, while I am here, I can only talk about experience design. I now am shifting the term from new media to experience design, because frankly, this is a very young field. Like product design or interior design or architecture or fashion, etc., has been there for very long. Something like this, it started off as called digital design. From then it went on to multimedia, then it became into new media, and now we're trying to find different names for it, primarily because how you look at it changes, right? Because design used to be about creating something to look at, but now it's about creating something where people can step inside, right? As designers, our canvas is now everything. We are no more limited to just the screen. Today I would have loved to do a projection mapping here, but nonetheless, our canvas is everything. Architecture, space, sound, movement, sensors, and recently, around 4-5 years, since 4-5 years, intelligence as well, which we now call as artificial intelligence. Some years ago, that same thing was called machine learning, and etc., etc. It's been there since the Clippy of Microsoft, frankly, what we are playing with today. But nonetheless, in experience design, earlier we used to call it machine learning, where you talk into it, it reacts back after a preset fed in data. So what we realized that as a company, we are not just visual designers anymore. We are not only communication designers, or we are not only animators, and that's why we call ourselves experience designers or experience architects, if one may. Sorry if there are any architects here, don't kill me. But, where we are a blend of graphic, design, animation, and most importantly, storytelling, right? uh, Storytelling sometimes just by the verse of uh, just voice or something that you hear, because every time when somebody comes to us, we keep telling them this again and again, and I may repeat it a few times. Any show that we create, we always tell our clients, and we tell ourselves as a studio, it's about 40 to 50% of any show is what you hear, not what you see. So if we get that right, it not only in terms of just the music, we've been kind of mostly interacting with cultural shows, mass market shows. We're not a niche company. We never went out to become a niche company. From day zero, we said we'll go mass. That's why we didn't become VJs, or we didn't become, very specifically just for high retail and etc. We said we want this to reach out to huge numbers, and we have to go with them. So that's why we kind of play a lot of, we take the most amount of time in getting the story right, or getting the visual story right, in the sense how will the person react to the sound or the visual context attached to it, rather than just the visual in it. And while we all know this, these are terms which are being used left, right, and center across the board, and so I managed to use them as well. The toolkit doesn't change. The new experiential toolkit, the toolkit has not really changed for a long time, and I don't see it changing too much. Maybe the mediums would change, in the sense the way you use a projector, the type of projector, or the way you use a hologram. We've all heard the word hologram so much that we've actually forgotten what holograms were at some point, and we get confused now because there are about 7-8 different types of holograms today. Earlier there was just one, the 45-degree, the Ghosh paper method, which some people say is a new invention. No, that's about 120 years ago somebody did the Ghosh paper hologram. So, I mean, when people say, oh, this is a new technology, I say nothing doing. This is 120 years old, right? Holograms, as we say. AR, people have used AR is a new term, augmented reality is a new term, but I'm sorry, this has been there since the day mirrors and interesting way you place a mirror has been there, where you can't see the other object, but you can see yourself with the other object. That is exactly augmented reality, right? Because what is it? You're augmenting your reality. There is something else with you which was not there when you looked into something. So these things have been there. So like I said, the toolkits haven't changed. And these tools are not separate disciplines either. They're ingredients, as I'd like to call them. Together, they help us transform static visuals into living, breathing environments as we know it today. And I'd like to start with something that we are known for, and frankly, that's about 75% of the work we do, or we've done. Okay. And that's projection mapping, because it's easier for me to talk about this first and get over with it, because this is not the only thing we do. And but nonetheless, we've done different kind of, as in imagine transforming a monument into a dynamic storytelling surface. Projection mapping in a way allows us, how do I say it, to warp architecture with emotion. without altering a single stone. And that is what I'll try and show you some things. Like we've actually been lucky enough to do it on statues, on artistic structures, monuments, temples, domes, on cars. We've actually done in the first projection in Ahmedabad we did was on a car, on a on a Volvo car. It was the launch of Volvo in India, apparently, and yeah, so that was the first one that we did on a public scale, I guess. Uh, there was immersive rooms, set based, etc., etc. So, uh, so you've seen these structures, and when they transform into something, they completely go magical, including our very own Ahmedabad Gufa, one of again a very difficult structure to work with, multiple domes. Seems easy, very small, needed very small projectors, but was actually very difficult to work with. Uh, in comparison to, let's say, a Red Fort was far more easier to work with. But I'll come to that. I'd like to talk about first about one of my favorite structures. Uh, Not because it's in Calcutta, but it's a dream for a projection mapping team to work on Victoria Memorial only because of the sheer scale, size, and more importantly, the material and the color. After Taj Mahal, this is the only pure white structure you really get to play with. Uh, Hopefully one day Taj Mahal, but as of now, this is number 2 in the list of most people in India. So we've been fortunate to work on this structure in 3 different shows, each one having a very different flavor. One on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, an entire story. The other one to celebrate the 1971 war, because that happened from the Eastern Command. So the Vijay Divas, as we celebrate today, was actually in the Eastern Command. So this one is the show about the Indian Army and the war in itself. And the last one, which actually is my favorite, is a simple show called Army Kolkata, which is I Am Calcutta. So this is where Victoria turns into Calcutta and tells the story of not just Bengalis but Calcutta in itself. I'll try and take you into a little bit about the show. If so, this was a fairly long 42-minute immersive projection mapping. These are lights, it has lasers, it has obviously projectors, and here it was very beautifully written, I would say. In fact, this was the show Suranjana was involved with long ago, before it later on others came in. But I'll play a small snippet if you're okay with. Obviously, this is an edit. So some of you may remember the Ganpati thing that people were making, the Ganpati idol drink milk. So this went into so many different stories. The one where you saw a bathtub and a cat and a dog. People at some point in Calcutta had people getting their cats and dogs married, or there were a lot of different small things about Calcutta, but this was by no means a small structure. It was about 380 feet and about 70 feet high. That would be about 6 floors approximately, and in terms of width, I'm not sure what to compare it with, but and it had about 8 projectors of 25,000 lumens. Now this projector here that we're using is max about 4,000 lumens. So each projector was 25,000 lumens. So you just multiply, that's about almost 8 times in terms of brightness, and then into 8. So that was what was used to grid map. And these were laser projectors. There were moving heads, there were 24 lights. There were power lights because we had a challenge which I'll try and. So as you can see, this was the coverage. You see, there's no coverage here. But if you saw the show, there would be some kind of color or something there which you would not. So those were covered with lights, with the power lights. And then we had another challenge. There was a lot of negative space here. So that was covered with those moving heads, which are basically beam lights, as some might want to call them, skylights, beam lights, something that, And then there was another challenge of the insides, this black thing. There again, there was lights behind, and they were programmed along with the entire show to, light up or come down accordingly. And, then obviously the journey starts with the story, the script, the visual script. While visual scripting, these are just some of the scenes, but some of the scenes how do you represent a particular story that people have, because this was not a show for you or me, it was for the people from Kolkata. That was very clear. It was for the locals. It was not necessarily for the tourists. Half of the tourists would not understand those small things that were happening. Well, the show is made in English as well, but frankly, those who do not know Kolkata or do not know those things will not get it. I mean, even we didn't get it because some of them we knew, but not exactly the way it came out. So we were like, okay, what they would see it as, who are their heroes? We may not know those names. That doesn't mean we just cut out a picture of them and put them there. How we kind of played with that comes out on a storyboard. We realized that art is obviously not realized. We all know art is something very special, but it also is not like very finished. You need the street art, you need the regular Kolkatan art, which you see not in the major galleries, an art that people understand. So you use elements like that to kind of represent the city. Some of you may obviously who've been there will know all of these, like that. This Satyajit Ray, there's the football, there is the tiger, there is obviously the quintessential Babu, there's the biryani here, there is the Hora Bridge, etc., etc. But then this was more seen, this particular scene was seen as a mural of somebody painting on the street of Kolkata, like that. But then when we came to something which was almost like a rebellion of sorts, eventually an association. Rana, don't make this a rebellion for design. It's only an association. That's what this one also started as. But in a way, again, this was because this was writers. So this is the technique changed, how we treat it. So unlike what happens in Europe or other countries where they stick to one style. This is our style. Here we've always realized that sticking to one style may be good on our resume, may be good for us, but not for the public. So we said no. What will that particular thing connect to? We will change. These are not our colors. They don't need to be. They need to be colors of the masses. So that's something as a studio we've always focused on. This is not for us. This is not art where I am expressing. This is actually something for people to enjoy. Especially most projects we do are cultural projects for the city or for the people or for a community, etc. So many of you would know all of this. This is that one where where they used to get. So here we wanted it to be a little quirky. We could not talk too much about it, but we could show it like that, where, during the Renaissance movement, people were having wine in their bathtubs and all of that. This is the times of the Devdas, as we know it. So it's just something when the British were there, and this is on that line. I'm sorry, this didn't come up. The Jora Shanko Badi, or the Tagore House. Yeah. So this was how we were thinking. Okay, Tagore House, the built-ups. Then we had to make the Victoria look like the Tagore House. Instead of putting the picture of Tagore House, which we could have and gotten away with it, we kind of used this architecture, its colors, to bring it about. So that connected a lot with people who knew the Jora Shanko Badi, or many. I mean, there are many homes, many of the Badis, the Thakur Badis were always like that. The other thing we did at that point was motion capture, but a very simpler version of the motion capture, because we since she was not paying us enough, we asked her to act. She was also a dancer. She is, and because otherwise we would have to use motion capture suits. Now just for 1 or 2 shots, or like a small portion, going into Bombay, at that time you had to go to Bombay to get motion capture suits and etc., and having that. So we found a new way to do it, and that is where the tech for us came in, to find an easier new way to kind of get the movement of that. Now since then we have a motion capture suit now, but then not really, right? So we did things like that as well, and kind of put them inside. Then obviously green screen shoots, bringing them in, but putting them in the cavity. We thought about it. We needed all the original players as well. The only photographs we had of the original, the Mohan Bagan team, was, just a sculpture, in fact. Took them out, shot a Gujarati to look like a Bengali, and that's the next story in this. After we finish this, I'll come. So accordingly, these are what we call as final screens. In our things, some people call them, I don't know, sorry, we call them screens. I don't know what the world calls them, because when we started, we didn't really have any playbook. हम तब बोलते थे, आज भी थोड़े टाइम पहले भी बोलते थे कि गूगल हमारी माता है, यूट्यूब हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी है, and that's how we learned. And today we have a lot of chacha, mama, taus, with all the things to teach us. But at that point, we didn't have a playbook, we didn't have a rule book, so we started calling them screens, and that's what it remains in our studio. But these are what we call as final screens. There was an interesting story about Amitabh Bachchan, and one would ask, why is Amitabh Bachchan in Kolkata? Well, he rejected a job in All India Radio Kolkata to become an actor, and they felt really bad about it, right? And then eventually obviously got married to a Bengali, but nonetheless. So what could have been? वो उसको लेके काफ़ी there was these small little stories which I'm not going to go about now. But the other interesting thing that I felt we did, because we felt the script was so nice. It talked about so many things, but the things don't happen by themselves. There were people, and there were highlights. It just so happened that most of them were men, and we decided, instead of getting different person, it's the same person who becomes. So 16 different characters played by one man, which includes Netaji to Satyajit Ray. So we had to add prosthetics because of the nose. And this man is an actor, he's a Gujarati actor, he's a Gujarati Vyas. But since there was no dialogues, he pulled it off crazy, including a Naxalite. So there is this one about the Naxalite movement, not in a bad way, but in a way that also shaped the people of Kolkata in some way. A footballer, he didn't know how to play football, we had to teach him. The Nizam himself, So that for us kind of worked suddenly. That decision to have this guy come back, again people then started looking forward for that guy to come back. So this, obviously this is a process which I just explained, that we do a visual script. We don't have a visual script here, but right from the script we move on to the visual script, we do screenings, but after obviously sketches, then we figure out a tech medium, how will we produce it? We do not produce it with one method. It cannot be only 2D animation. It cannot be only 3D animation. It cannot be only simulation. It cannot be only shoot. It cannot be only photographs. We have to do a mix of everything. Especially like in this one, if you see, we had to do the cavity. We could have gotten away without the cavity, but the fun of it was in the cavity, because you kind of create a perspective, right? I mean, if you are going to Calcutta at some point, please do visit. I mean, this is a show that's worked well. I don't know how much time we have, but on the same lines, we have another show which is called the Jai Hind show on the Red Fort. The one you saw in our showreel was the outside structure, the wall that was built later, right? But we've actually done a show on the inside structures also to give you some perspective. Hopefully this loads. Okay. Okay, this will give you. So there was an older sound and light show. Some of you may remember there was a sound and light show at. So that had to. It was almost 20 years old, and a lot of things were not working. It was being revamped, and so we kind of were called in to create the content. The story was already created. They didn't want to change too much the old story and some new paragraphs to be added. Post-independence, especially the independence struggle was to be added. So we were called in. But then this is the Naubat Khana, the entrance. So this show, I don't know why this video is not loading, but if it does, or maybe I can play the YouTube video, but that will be 2 minutes. Yeah. These were our technical partners, Modern Stage. In fact, it was their project. This, you can see the walk. This is where the Red Fort walk starts. This is the Naubat Khana, which is the first structure. Then the show moves on. You have to walk. It's a 1 hour, 15-minute show. You have to walk it, and then you eventually go to the final 5 structures. There was a puppet. This was a 15 feet tall puppet by Padamji. An Indian, but this was a puppet of the Sutradhar. In this case, it was Amitabh Bachchan who gave the voice, but there were dancers, there were live dancers. Every show has live dancers. It has puppets, large puppets. So main characters became large puppets, really tall puppets, so that people could see them. Dancers are something you experience. Puppets are something you see the thing. And obviously projection to aid all of it. Sound, music, projection to aid. We had to break the show into so many parts. We had to ensure that there is a little song and dance in between to kind of speeden up the story at times. But yes. So this was also, I'll just pause this here because, yeah, okay, this is now finally loaded. So each structure had its own different kind of projector, like this was 20,000 lumen projectors. There were so many structures that were covered in this. There were artworks, again trying to recreate the grandeur, in different ways, as we call them screens. There are storyboards, rough, they go on to detailed storyboards, etc., etc. But it all starts with a sketch at the end of the day. There were quite a few 3D artworks, including the peacock throne that had to be created in like very high detail, which it was not there. There is this element, you can't get away with not creating the peacock throne when you're trying to do Red Fort. So that is why it was done. There were a lot of the Kohinoor diamond story. So instead of showing just the diamond and itself, the backgrounds, we put a dance in there, and then there was this one. There was obviously a team of choreographer who was doing a lot of it. There was a theatre director, Royston Abel, he was directing. He was a theatre director. But even different structures were mapped onto. I mean, I can keep going on about it, but it's just. So like I said, there was lights, there was lasers, there were puppets, at every little point. Not every building had projection, mind you. Obviously, it's too expensive. But yes, some places we actually project, making it looking to look like light when you don't want to reveal too much in the beginning, especially, and then suddenly you reveal a projector. We know there's a projector, the audience doesn't know there's a projector. That element of surprise is used quite at times. But yes, so this was another show that we kind of, is different. How we look at it, right? And that, because it's about designing with the structure, not on it. You have to take your story, figure out the best way you can do it. Sometimes it's not just the projection visual or an animation. The animation is not going to solve everything. That is something that we learned along the way. Earlier we used to try and put as much animation, as much 3D, as much simulation. Slowly we learned the word, now I hope I've learned it right, called Therav. Right? Correct me later. But we learned it, because light should only enhance the architecture's form, not erase it. It's not about not seeing the building. You need to be able to see the structure. We could throw enough light to ensure that, you don't see the building at all. But that is not the point. You need to enhance the structure. I mean, a lot of people who worked with architectural lights, or photographers who worked with object photography, they know these. These are basically, we're picking from their learnings to kind of take it further. So, one sec. Now let's kind of quickly try and step indoors, where I'll talk about one of the case studies of the museums that we've done, where the projection mapping or any such medium that we've done, they become environmental. They become a part of your entire journey, what you look around, rather than just exhibits. And that, I'm taking that with a very clear, these are not exhibits. These are your environment into that interior space, in this case a museum, right? The walls have to dissolve, the viewer has to go directly into the past. A majority of it is done by the thematic design as well, and it's not just this, but even then it becomes, when the thematic design is such, we have to ensure that we also do something which matches that. We just suddenly can't, fine, we've got a big screen, we've got big projectors, now let's just go about making a very cut film, very high crisp. No, we try and understand that bit. I'll try and, I'll cover it with a video. For those who have not been to Vadnagar or do not know why Vadnagar, please reach out to Rana. It's actually the birthplace of Modiji, but more importantly, this has got a dug up history of 2,400 years. It's not about the last 75 years as people want to claim it to be. It has been there for 2,400 years. So there's this museum there. This was a marketplace. Again, this was treated, the script was treated differently, like theatre. They're doing it right in front of you. You're made to sit right close, as close as the first 2 rows. There's no space to sit behind. Wait in line, but you be within the market space. There's a dog sitting next to you, there's a man sitting with you. All of that comes through. This again is a sculpture, because belief. It had Buddhism, it had Jainism, it had Hinduism, it had all, it had Islam, it had everything back then. And there might have been religions when, as we do not know, 2,400 years ago, right? It had the Shaivites, obviously. The Hatkeshwar Mandir is there, right? It had the Devi movement, the Shakti movement. There have been so many things found there. So, and then there's ambient. Here, this is actually an orientation film. It's the introduction to the city of Vadnagar. So it was treated very differently. There were lights on each of these objects, because these objects have been found. Just storytelling. This is an interactive where you obviously, you play with Gond art and you create something, put it for the future. uh, we needed it 2 steps, in 3 steps it needed to go. This was a song in traditional, uh, way to kind of beat and stuff like that, but even the art was done accordingly. There's a 3D film to explain the excavation. So we didn't just focus on only what has been dug up, because it's pointless, only to see the excavations. The stories behind the excavations become important. Uh, these are to keep the kids happy. You need things, and so we were involved in the content and the tech in this project. There were quite a few things within this museum that we'd done, about 32 odd mix, like small interactives, obviously regular touch screens. But when it was a regular touch screen, they wanted to teach about a cannonball. They found cannon balls there, right, of different sizes. And there was this wall. One of the most prominent feature about Vatnagar excavations is this wall, which still stands, right? So we kind of worked around that. We created a game of cannonball. Try and break the wall, it will not break. A toot hai. So there are immersive rooms. There's the simulators, using the same thing like simulators, Bhuj Smriti one. There are dome experiences we've seen. I'm not going into details of this because I'm assuming we've seen them somewhere or the other, per se. Another is something like fountain shows. Now, fountain shows can be done not just like a regular fountain show. You can use a lot of mediums for them. And this is something in Ahmedabad. This was, in a way, a breakaway project for us, because most government projects, they give you a very strict brief. This one, they did not. We were allowed to go free. We were allowed fiction for the first. Amongst a few shows where we were allowed fiction, we can make our own stuff in terms of storytelling. So futuristic, etc., etc. But we still had to go with the sensitivities of this one. So the Garudian, because going with the Yan functionary. It's in the science city, Ahmedabad. Within the science city, they wanted something at least thematic science. So we used, there is water screens, there is real humans, there is automated robots, which hopefully is still working. And then there is lasers, there are projection screens, there's fire, there is everything, in this case. At that point, it was one of the largest fountains, 250 nozzles, 3D nozzles as they call it. It was one of the largest. Since then, there have been more. But there were a lot of projectors. Here, one thing we did is, normally if you've seen a fountain show, it's either the fountain going on its own track and there's a music, mostly Jai Ho. How many of you have heard a fountain show with Jai Ho? It's mostly that, right? So we had to work in tandem with the fountain. This one, we programmed the fountain as well, in a way to go along with the story, go along with the music, go along with things to happen like a theater, in a theatrical function, and that was something which was very challenging. We also did, we had to take in visual references from a lot of older functioning to kind of build up, because it was fiction. We in fact created INSA, which is the Interplanetary National Space Agency. People who came in from the Science City and ISRO and all, like, ye kaun si agency, ye kahan se leke aaye? Then they said, no, this will become a problem for us. But we didn't change it. Thankfully, they didn't pursue it. But we had to do all of it. In that sense, this was like a fun project, storytelling wise. Obviously, very difficult to kind of get your hands out to storyboard, because which medium is doing reacting what is going to be very difficult. So I'm not going into too much detail. I think I have, but music, we created a song, it was recorded, etc., etc. We record quite a few songs in most of our shows, because we believe, like I said, that 40% audio, and in the end you need that celebration sometimes, and as Indians we love that celebration, and there is no two way around it, and so we do that quite often. I'll come to something called interactive. Yes, a lot of it is touch, but for us a lot of these are games, but games meant to be learned in 3 seconds. Games or interactions meant to finish in 15 seconds. And most challenges are not interactions, and one time. You don't, that person is not I mean, there's a very, very rare chance that person will come back again to do it. So it's one time, 5 second, 3 second, learn 15, 20 seconds, finish. That's been our focus with all interactions that we do, you know, and no language ideally, right? Because it's only meant to make people aware. It's not something to teach, especially in museums and experience centers. You can't teach, I mean, I am okay with interactivity for learning. That's a separate ball game altogether. But here, no. So whenever we create something, we keep these things, and it's mostly for kids. Kids need it. Yes, the adults enjoy it, the senior citizens love it, but it's designed for kids. Right? No learning, ideally. Well, we are not always successful, but yes. Holograms, like I mentioned, there are too many types. I'm not going into detail. Anybody wants to know, I can help. Augmented reality, we've done a lot. 2009 onwards, I've been doing augmented reality. We love it, but for us, we call it the most simplest of the mediums, but the most effective mass medium that is there today, because people love seeing themselves on the screen. I put all of you on the screen today, you will pay more attention. As simple as that. You know, so people love it. Now AR is being used very differently. XR has come in where etc, etc, but mostly AR is, there's a screen in front of you, there's a camera that's pointing at you, and there's something else happening on the screen with you and the camera. There is no other thing than that. There's no real person going to come here. XR mein you are wearing this transparent screen, and I mean, or a screen with the camera in it, and which is what the meta glasses etc are calling themselves. So VR, we're doing a lot of stuff in VR, games, small interactivity. More importantly, we've chosen VR as the medium for training. Like you know, especially blue collar workers. Penado, they can't look around, they can't look at their phones, they can't talk to their friends, they have to pay attention. And here we are training them for safety. Because safety, in our research, told us safety is not a training problem. It's a culture problem, it's a behavior change problem, it is not a learning problem, it is actually a sensitization problem. And VR is the best sensitization tool according to us. You can't train with VR, not yet. Today, I mean, when you're talking about Indian blue collar or anybody, you can sensitize with VR. Put them in the accident. ये चलता है attitude, मेरे साथ नहीं हो सकता. ये चलता है, वो हटाओगे कैसे? You put them in the accident. गिरो, मरो. We blast them off, we kill them, we throw them off buildings, we cut them, we do all of that. Yes, we actually do. And first we were scared, but companies have loved it. Right? People, because they see the change. They see people wearing helmets, they see, I mean, I'm not going on and on. And then the KnownSense experiences, we've recently started, we realized that Indian content is not there in the amusement space. Everything is Chinese or coming in from Europe or the US. So we are launching Arco, which is basically a young lad, obviously very, you know, normal thing, because 13-year-old chap, because we are targeting youngsters, etc., based in the future. But the idea is to give all these experiences in immersive VR, dome, 9D rides, which the only ones that our kids are seeing today are from China. We want to give an Indian. We're already working with the science centers. The first lot, we're creating films for science. We've done 3 of them, making more with the Indian context. So that said, this one was using immersive, interactive, everything. Again, it's in a science center about ecology. You know, because when the space responds, when you move, when you trigger visuals, you know, it kind of creates a certain attachment to it. You remember it, you go back, you remember it, as a kid especially, right? For us, this means that our work is no longer linear anymore. It's not about interaction, it's not about visual, it's not about animation, you know, it's adaptive. It has to be participatory and it has to be alive. One way or the other, we have to make it alive. In the same reason, we just we just experimented with an artwork in Abhivakti last time, where we've used, sensors, which and touch designers, etc., etc. We've been doing that for a long time, but yes, you know, we use AI, etc., etc. in this. This is another thing where we've used projection mapping, AI, where people can generate their own, but we didn't give them the prompts because that could go dangerous. Indians are dangerous when it comes to public, these ones. What you could do is you could choose your designs. I'm sorry, this screen doesn't really show the real one, but you could choose your design. You can design your mask as you like it and then give it prompts based on different ones. So then you could it becomes yours very quickly, right there in front of you, and then you interact with it. And that becomes yours. That becomes your art. So that's how we're also using AI. I mean, we're doing a lot more with AI now, especially taking a spiritual guru's voice, all his teachings, everything. You ask a question, it answers back. All that stuff is fairly. Yeah. So, what is this new skill set that we're talking about? I'm sorry, I'm just finishing. Uh, what do we as new media designers are learning on a day-to-day basis? Or what we need to learn, especially for the young ones who are learning communication design or space design or any design for the matter of fact, tech. So creatively, I would say spatial storytelling, user flow, no matter which discipline you are from, user flows and spatial storytelling is important. How far, etc., etc., how many people, how far, collective, individual, all that. Uh, the multimedia functionality, storytelling for the right medium. Either you choose the right medium for the story given to you, or you choose the right story for the medium given to you. But either way choose, you have to be very conscious about that. Learn that. It's a skill to learn, frankly. We've learned it over many failures. But yes. And how will the user respond? The interaction, thinking of the interaction. What will a child do? What will somebody from a particular background do? And what will a senior citizen do? We stick to these three things: a child, somebody from a rural background, and a senior citizen. If you get them, you get everybody in between for sure. Urban will react very differently. A child, no matter where he is from, will react similar. A senior citizen has different ways of looking at it, right? But nonetheless, if you have to think about it creatively, that's one. Those become a biggest challenges, I would say. Uh, and technically, as designers, I would say we need to understand the story writing process. I don't need to be a writer. I'm not a writer. I can't write for nuts. Both our writers are here in the room right now. They'll kill me if I say I can write. But story write, you need to understand the process. Only then you're going to be able to get in it, understand, help them with the medium. Sometimes they will not know the medium. You will. They will not know the user. You will. They will not know the space. You will. They understand AV content production. And today, like I said, Google हमारी माता, YouTube हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी है, नहीं तो चाचा मामा ताऊ तो बहुत सारे आ ही रहे हैं पीछे, ChatGPT, Gemini, ये वो. But understand AV content production. Don't, and it's not easy, but at least understand it, right? AV tech, understanding AV tech, mixing these different possibilities. Sometimes it's only us as experienced designers who can do this. Mixing a video or a content to a tech. Till I don't understand the tech, I'm not going to be able to mix it. It's good enough to see, a WhatsApp forward, but at the end of the day, that's not, you still have to go out and at least know something about it. Try and experiment. We have quite a few, we've been, I think, lucky enough to be, experimenting a lot. Our R&Ds have been constant. It changes every few months. It's crazy. Sensors, real-time engines, example, touch design is just an example. It's been there for about 9-10 years now. I think approximately the first touch designer came around then. And then since then there are many more, etc., etc. But keep experimenting, prototyping, AI workflows. Now AI, I'm not going to talk about AI so much because it's a very touchy topic, especially with designers around, so many of them. But do we use AI? Yes. What do we use them for? Multiple things. But they are not necessarily the end product. If you don't know how to use it, you're anyways going to botch it up. It's like saying Photoshop आया तो इनका काम चला गया, actual artist का काम चला गया. Not really, right? But understanding AI workflows is very, very important. You may not know how to do it, you don't have to do it, but understanding them. The world is moving at such a pace that I'm just fortunate I have people within the studio who know how to do it. I don't. I'm like the lowest in the rung, but there are quite a few people within the studio who know how to do it. But these are very quick phases because we used to get these questions a lot. Uh, where do we come in if there is a space designer, interior designer, or a project? We generally tell them, please come to us for feasibility and adaptations, right? Then there is a rough budgeting, blah blah blah. I'm not going over this because I don't have time. Uh, we also do think about integration, constraints, user experience versus functionality, maintenance and upkeep. Sometimes it gets so easy to get overboard, no, ये कर दो वो चलेगा ही नहीं, 5 साल वो चीज़ चलने नहीं वाली है, 1 महीना चलेगा फिर क्या होगा. It will keep, you have to use tech that is function and maintainable, so and usable. So those are things that we do have to think about. We can suggest 10 things which are experimental, but as an event, yes. As a permanent, no. Right? So things like that, spatial constraints. You show an image where I'll show everywhere here. Where will I keep the projectors? On the ground or in the middle? No. So things like that we take ensure. The challenges that we all face, and I'm sure many of us, any which way, is budgets, because hardware is expensive. Limitations with ever evolving tech. Today you have one tech, tomorrow that tech is not to be found anywhere. You keep up with it. Last minute entry of, when I say last minute entry, it's because यहाँ projector है, there is a last minute entry that the interior designer decides कि I need a tree there. What happens to my projection? I don't know. And the worst is the WhatsApp forwards that we all get. It's just crazy. चाइना का कोई रैंडम वीडियो AI से जनरेट ये बनाना है, तुमको नहीं आता, अरे वहाँ लोग कर रहे हैं, तुम बहुत पीछे हो. अरे भाई वो it's a fake video, hologram on top of some tower, or a dragon going through bridges. We've all seen that, right? Those are just basically VFX stuff you send and you say, I want this to happen. So a drone se kara, bhai drone hai, yes, but it's not going to happen like that. We know that, but that's one of the biggest constraints as on today, I would say, challenges. So circling back, I think most importantly, what we all need to do is a mindset that sees technology not as a tool. So far, for so many years, designers have seen technology as a tool, right? But start seeing it as a medium, not as a tool, just to give information. So that said, what is the future? The future is intelligent, obviously. It's responsive spaces, spaces that adapt, spaces that react, and even sometimes anticipate what's the next move. That will change how you look at experiential spaces. Imagine museums that will change based on who walks in. It will know who you are just because of RFID tags. When you've registered, it will know your name. It will give you everything on your name, depending on where you're from, etc., etc. It will give you so many things. Projection environments that shift based on just overall emotion. Movement we've all know, we've all seen. Can spaces change based on emotion? Can I get the lights dim because all of you are bored, or brighter since you're bored? Can that happen? Are there? Yes, there is tech already there. It's an experimentation, but it's there, right? AI-driven narratives that personalize for each visitor. This personalization is the key. I think everybody out there, any which ways about software, is talking about personalized software. Personal experiences are there, and these are not personal experiences sitting in my chair at my home or on my bed watching my mobile phone or a VR device. We are talking about people walking in somewhere, because eventually we are social people. We like to go to places and experience them. It is inherent. We like to explore. We are hunter-gatherers at some scale, and you can't put us in just our mobile phones for long enough. And that's why the costliest things are concert tickets. Who all went to Himesh Reshamya or a Diljit or Coldplay, for the matter of fact, right? Because these are experiences. You're willing to pay 10,000 there. You're not willing to pay 5,000 on a Netflix full year subscription. You will share that with a friend, right? But that's the difference. And experiences are there because we are moving from experiential design to responsive design ecosystems. It's not just you see this exhibit and you move on to the next exhibit. What you see here will be connected to that, will be connected to that, will be connected to that, and then eventually you'll take it back home with you. How? That's what we'll all have to see. So yeah, I'll kind of close. We are no longer designing visuals. We're designing experiences that are immersive, intelligent, alive. And a designer, especially an experienced designer, not just a creator, but an orchestrator of light, story, technology, and emotion. Thank you. I welcome anybody who wants to come to our studio to see things. We have some of things on demos anyways. Yeah. I hope I took a lot more time. Any question?
Thank you, Himanshu. That was a very enlightening talk. Some of us have seen the work that he was showing in some form or the other. We didn't understand there was so much complication and such a long process to achieve, and some of the work takes about, what, 6 to 8 months?
Yeah. If it's government, 2 years, but yeah. Otherwise, about 90 days to 6 months is a good timeline. Yeah.
Like full time you're devoted to that project?
For that project, 3 to 6 months.
By the way, I'm Paulami Das. I'm the treasurer of ADI Ahmedabad chapter, and our vice president Digvijay is also here. Jaimin is here. He's the joint treasurer, and our president is Shimul. So you are being circulated this form. Kindly fill it out, because we will contact you with your email IDs or mobile numbers, because we have a lot of programs coming up in the next year. Just realize sitting there that your talk ends our association with Ahmedabad for 2025. We will start something different in 2026. So with this talk by Himanshu on AI, projection mapping, and the future technologies, we actually have 2025, the first quarter of the 21st century, coming to an end. And 2026, the new quarter begins. So anyone has any questions you want to ask Himanshu?
I hope I have confused you enough.
There are quite a few students. Like, I know there's a group that came from GLS. There's some students sitting at the back also. No questions? Sure? Okay. Yes.
What are the main challenges which you face during the process?
Challenges?
Yes.
In which process? The creation process?
The creation process.
So creation process, I think once we are able to crack the visual storyboard, which is mostly text and as in ideations, and very rough storyboards in terms of the key scenes. Once we crack that, then it's kind of easier. As in, we know, we see the light at the end of the day, and we know where to do what. So I think most where we have to go back to is there. Because context, what you're saying, I don't need to necessarily show that. But how to show that, that kind of takes away a lot of our work. And that's why sometimes we end up revisiting the script a lot. I mean, for the science film for the kids, we had to revisit the film, the script after making also. So yeah, I mean, fortunately, because we do the entire chain mostly, we are able to keep juggling. But yes, it always comes back to visual script, because the visual script tells us is medium mein ye acha lagega ya nahi lagega. There are times we test the files in between where the color, like Red Fort, right? It's the Red Fort. It's made of red stone. How many colors will be seen on that? The Statue of Unity, it's bronze. After we projected, all our screens went kaput. We have to redo it. We have to redo a lot, and we have to go back to visual script. It's not about just changing the colors. It could not just happen just by changing color correction. Victoria Memorial, that's why we like it. No, it's white. What we see on screen, almost that's what we'll see there. None of the other projects very few of them. Modera Sun Temple, it's stone that eats up all the light. One, it's broken at all places. So there is going to be, so we know that there is going to be that blur. And we create accordingly. Right? And some colors will pop out, some will not. So that is, That's a challenge, but that challenge is not seen after the design stage where, after you've done Photoshop or After Effects or whatever, that's the regular tools, right? Our tools are very similar to animation. I mean, the process is an animation process at the end of the day, but the visual scripting and the storyboarding, that's where is the biggest challenge.
One more question. Where does the role of AI comes into play?
In the production process?
Yes.
Sometimes, as on today, because it's changing every month, frankly, in the production process, sometimes it's for concepts, to see, we thought of something, iska context wo kya bolta hai, after taking in so much. Sometimes, like all of us struggle with references. 10,000 references hain ya 100 references hain, and then to kind of build that into one, sometimes for that. Mood boards, I think in our language, we have a stage which is called the mood board stage. So presently mood board, there are some shows where we have, recent ones, we've been able to use it for the screening bit, but not the entire screening, some parts of the screening. It has been useful where in a project which has a very tight deadline and they want so many 3D models, and you can't produce those many 3D models because it's impractical, both time and resource usage. So we've been able to use them where we know it's only coming for a few seconds and too many, then we've been able to use them. We can't use them for the entire project, but we can use them for a few seconds. Now, if I have to show them for longer, I will have to recreate them. But till then, yes, we've used them. We've used them in projects where, for interactivity, like we showed you the mask thing, where people are actually using the AI. But we've curtailed it to just enough so that people don't get overwhelmed. Because AI, if you've used AI, we can get overwhelmed very quickly. While Google is trying to help us, let me create this for you, let me create that for you, but nonetheless.
Thank you.
I can't see you.
Thank you, Himanshu. I just want to ask thoda business related questions. Suppose I am a client, so before approaching you, or in a sense immersive technology I want to use for my business or even my personal any related affections, monuments, or तो उसमें क्या, what kind of, or in a case like I am a visual designer myself, so for
Collaborator,
if I want to inspire my client की ये technology, तो what is the brief or preparation before approaching immersive technology? और उसमें एक सिंपल क्वेश्चन जो कंफ्यूज करता है, इट्स लाइक पेंडुलम की कितना बजट होगा, तो हम सामने पूछते हैं, वो पूछते हैं क्लाइंट को पूछे कितना बजट होगा.
सर जो पहला वाला बॉक्स है ना उधर, दैट्स व्हाट इज, वो फ्री है पहला बॉक्स. कंसेप्ट, रेफरेंस एंड पॉसिबिलिटीज़. द की वर्ड हियर इज पॉसिबिलिटीज़. व्हाट यू आर आस्किंग इज ये पॉसिबिलिटी है और अंदाजन इसका बजट कितना होता है. ये टेक है, ये साइज़ का है, ये रूम है, ये टेक हो सकता है अप्रॉक्सीमेटली इस रूम के साइज़ के. वंस वी गेट द रूम और वी गेट द पर्पस, देयर हैज़ टू बी समथिंग गिवन टू अस, एटलीस्ट 4-5 नो, कि किस चीज़ का चीज़ है, एंड स्पेस क्या है, बिल्डिंग है या रूम है. देन वी कम अप विथ पॉसिबिलिटीज़. वी हैव अ बैंक ऑफ पॉसिबिलिटीज़ बिकॉज वी डू दिस ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. वी कैन क्रिएट अ पॉसिबिलिटी डेक, right? And once you know, the possibility deck will have like 80-90 solutions. No point for us to rework according the base budget. Along with that, we trim it down to 5-10 solutions depending on the usage, maybe 1 or 2 options for each solution, and give you a broad budget. Once the client is okay with the broad budget, कि हाँ ठीक है इतना मेरे को लगेगा, then we move on to the next stage, which I've marked in red, which is for us one of the most critical stages and not the end, right? It's the feasibility and adaptation stage. कि feasible है भी कि नहीं है, क्योंकि तब तक तो हम भी उसको सीरियसली नहीं ले पाएंगे, आप भी नहीं ले पाएंगे, क्योंकि बट हम वो feasibility जरूर चेक करते हैं, because that is what we know, that is what we understand. We are not going to tell you something that's not practically possible. That's when we are going to put the thing, that feasibility. Then after the feasibility comes the actual budgeting stage, the final, like not the final but the budgeting. फिर then it moves on the regular cycle ना, solution design होगा, budgets final होंगे, फलाना टिकाना, and then वो है. But that is the possibility. So possibilities, and frankly in today's day and age, possibilities, the confusion is possibilities बहुत सारे हैं, but which is the right possibility, the choice is by somebody who knows the tech. That's why when I mentioned about what do we need to do as designers is to understand the tech as well. if you want to do anything to do with experience design, to see a possibility and immediately validate the feasibility is what we've learned and is what we expect the future or any collaborators to get. You know, we work with a lot of designers, especially exhibition designers and interior architects. We work with a lot of them, we collaborate with them. We work with even communication designers, artists. So we help them with that feasibility. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, you done?
I wanted to ask, where does the role of a space designer comes into the play?
Good question. If you'd not asked me, I would have had trouble in office. Okay, so with a lot of museums or exhibitions or events, there are enough places where the client doesn't have understand. The client is like a religious client, or it's somebody who's from an event saying they do not know किस तरीके से क्या करना है. Sometimes it's just one room. They have this room, इसमें immersive करना है या कुछ करना है. Then your space designer comes in. And also, like I mentioned, user flow, right? That's where the space designer comes in, right? For us, as we speak, thematic designs, because when you're creating something, there has to be thematic, user comes in. How many people are the ideal size and space to sit for a particular experience? The space design comes in. So a lot of places. Yeah? Thank you. Done?
Hello, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Hi.
Hello,
Hi.
sir.
Hi.
I don't have a question as such. My name is Ghana, and I am a product designing student at GLS.
Wow.
And a while ago, we as a batch visited Vadnagar Museum.
Okay.
And for the whole 2 years that I have known my batch, I have never seen them in that interactive space the way they were. As you said that while you're designing something, you something interactive, you aim the kids because kids universally react the same way.
Yep.
And the whole 2 years I've known them, all of them are so different, and yet in that space, all of them, including me, were the same kid.
Wow.
And
That's
it was
great to
an
know.
imprinting.
Some of them who actually created those interactions are sitting here. She will be very happy to understand the UX. She did the UX, so yeah, that'll be crazy. That's nice. Thank you so much for that.
Thank
you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Just last request, be a member in ADI. We need human strength, intellect strength, community strength. Benefit हम खुद ही ढूंढ लेंगे, पर please be with us. We need to grow. Thank you.